Abby Choi bought a $9 million luxury apartment for her ex-husband's family. She put their name on the deed, trusted them completely, and let them live there for years. When she finally decided to sell it and reclaim what was hers, they murdered her. Then they dismembered her body in a makeshift butcher shop they had prepared specifically for the killing. On February 24, 2023, Hong Kong police discovered her remains in a refrigerator. Some of her body parts had been cooked in pots. This wasn't a crime of passion. This was calculated, premeditated murder driven by greed. Four family members conspired to kill her rather than give up the luxury apartment she had generously provided. This is the shocking true story of Abby Choi, a 28-year-old model whose kindness was repaid with unimaginable brutality. Abby Choi was a successful model and social media influencer living in Hong Kong. At 28 years old, she had built an impressive career in fashion and social media, with thousands of followers who admired her glamorous lifestyle. Abby came from a wealthy family and had access to significant financial resources. She was known for her beauty, style, and generous nature. Abby had been married before and had 2 children from that marriage. Though she and her ex-husband Alex Kwong had divorced, they maintained a relationship for the sake of their children. Abby later remarried and had 2 more children with her current husband, Chris Tam, a successful entrepreneur. Despite the divorce, Abby remained surprisingly close to her ex-husband's family, the Kwong family. This closeness would ultimately prove fatal. In a gesture of extraordinary generosity, Abby Choi purchased a luxury apartment in Hong Kong's prestigious Kadoorie Hill neighborhood. The property was worth approximately 73 million Hong Kong dollars, about $9.2 million US. This was no ordinary apartment. It was located in one of Hong Kong's most exclusive areas, a symbol of wealth and status. However, Abby made a decision that would seal her fate. To avoid paying stamp duty taxes of nearly $1 million, she registered the property under her ex-father-in-law's name, Kwong. She intended for the family to live there. Abby trusted the Kwong family completely. She believed they would honor the arrangement. The apartment was hers, but legally, it belonged to Kwong. This trust would prove to be a deadly mistake. The Kwong family appeared to be an ordinary Hong Kong family, but they were struggling financially. Kwong, the patriarch and Abby's ex-father-in-law, was a former police officer who had retired but was facing money problems. His wife, Jenny Lee, was a housewife. Their son Alex Kwong had been married to Abby and they had 2 children together before divorcing. Another son, Anthony Kwong, also lived with the family. The family had become dependent on Abby's generosity and financial support. When Abby purchased the expensive apartment and put it in Kwong's name, the family moved in and enjoyed a lifestyle they couldn't have afforded otherwise. But this arrangement created a dangerous dynamic. The Kwong family began to see Abby's wealth as their own. They grew resentful and possessive, especially regarding the apartment that legally belonged to the father but was actually Abby's property. In early 2023, Abby Choi made a decision that would cost her life. She decided she wanted to sell the luxury Kadoorie Hill apartment. Perhaps she needed the money for her new family. Perhaps she simply wanted to reclaim what was rightfully hers. Whatever her reasons, Abby informed the Kwong family that she intended to sell the property. This news devastated and enraged the Kwong family, particularly the patriarch Kwong. They had been living in luxury for years, enjoying an apartment worth nearly $10 million. The thought of losing this home, this status symbol, this representation of wealth they could never afford on their own, was unbearable. Kwong vehemently opposed the sale. Arguments erupted between Abby and her ex-in-laws. The property dispute escalated quickly. What Abby didn't realize was that the Kwong family was willing to go to unthinkable lengths to keep the apartment. They began plotting something horrific. The Kwong family, led by patriarch Kwong, began planning Abby's murder. This wasn't a crime of passion or a sudden violent outburst. This was calculated, premeditated murder driven by greed and desperation. Kwong, the former police officer, became the mastermind. His police training and experience made him particularly dangerous. He knew how to plan a crime and avoid detection. The family discussed how they would kill Abby and, disturbingly, what they would do with her body. They rented a village house in Tai Po, a more rural area of Hong Kong, away from the city's surveillance and scrutiny. They transformed this house into a nightmare, a makeshift butcher shop complete with meat grinders, saws, and other tools for dismembering a human body. The planning was meticulous and chilling. All 4 family members were involved: Kwong, his wife Jenny Lee, and their 2 sons Alex and Anthony. They waited for the right moment to strike. On February 21, 2023, the Kwong family put their plan into action. Abby Choi was lured to the village house in Tai Po under false pretenses. The exact details of how they convinced her to come remain unclear, but given her continued relationship with the family for her children's sake, it wouldn't have been difficult. Abby trusted these people. They were her children's family. She had no reason to suspect they were planning to kill her. When Abby arrived at the village house, she was attacked. The family overpowered her. What happened next was brutal and horrifying. Abby was murdered in that house. But the killing was just the beginning. The Kwong family then proceeded to dismember Abby's body, using the tools they had prepared. The scene was something out of a horror movie, except this was real. A young woman's life was brutally ended because of greed over a property she had generously provided. On February 24, 2023, 3 days after Abby's murder, police made a gruesome discovery at the village house in Tai Po. Acting on concerns from Abby's family about her disappearance, investigators searched the property and found a scene of unimaginable horror. Inside the house, they discovered what can only be described as a human butcher shop. Abby Choi's dismembered remains were found in a refrigerator. Some of her body parts had been placed in pots, as if being prepared like food. The house contained meat grinders, saws, and other butchery equipment. It was clear this wasn't a spontaneous crime, this was planned and executed with disturbing precision. The discovery shocked Hong Kong and made international headlines. Abby's skull was found, but some body parts were never recovered. The brutality of the crime was almost incomprehensible. Police immediately began searching for the Kwong family, who had fled after the murder. Hong Kong police launched an intensive manhunt for the Kwong family members. 4 suspects were identified: Kwong, the ex-father-in-law and mastermind; Jenny Lee, the ex-mother-in-law; Alex Kwong, the ex-husband; and Anthony Kwong, the ex-brother-in-law. Police worked quickly to track them down before they could flee Hong Kong entirely. Alex Kwong was arrested first, attempting to flee Hong Kong by boat. He was caught at the harbor with large amounts of cash and luxury goods. His brother Anthony Kwong was arrested shortly after. Jenny Lee, the mother, was also taken into custody. But the mastermind, Kwong, remained at large for days. Police believed he might try to escape to mainland China, where extradition would be difficult. The manhunt intensified. Officers searched airports, harbors, and the border. Finally, Kwong was found hiding and arrested. All 4 family members were in custody, facing murder charges. The evidence against the Kwong family was overwhelming and horrifying. The village house in Tai Po contained Abby's remains and DNA evidence throughout. The butchery equipment had her blood on it. Police found cleaning supplies, plastic tarps, and other items used to try to hide the crime. Digital evidence showed the family had rented the house specifically for the murder. There were no signs of anyone actually living there. It was solely a kill site. Security camera footage placed family members at the location during the time of the murder. Financial records showed the property dispute, the luxury apartment registered in Kwong name but purchased with Abby's money. Police discovered evidence that the family had been discussing the property sale and their opposition to it in the days before the murder. The motive was clear: they killed Abby to keep the apartment. Forensic evidence confirmed all 4 family members were involved in either the murder or the dismemberment and disposal of Abby's body. All 4 members of the Kwong family were charged with murder and related offenses. Kwong Kao, the ex-father-in-law and former police officer, faced the most serious charges as the alleged mastermind. He was charged with murder and preventing the lawful burial of a body. His wife Jenny Lee faced similar charges for her role in the crime. Alex Kwong, Abby's ex-husband and father of her 2 children, was charged with murder. He had participated in killing the mother of his own children over an apartment. Anthony Kwong faced charges related to his involvement in the crime. The prosecution argued this was a premeditated murder driven by greed and the desire to maintain possession of the luxury apartment. The butcher shop setup proved premeditation. The dismemberment showed attempts to hide the crime and dispose of the body. Hong Kong's legal system doesn't have the death penalty, but all 4 faced life in prison if convicted. The case shocked Hong Kong society and attracted global media attention. The murder of Abby Choi shocked Hong Kong and the world. The brutality of the crime, dismembering her body in a makeshift butcher shop, was almost incomprehensible. That this was done by family over a property dispute made it even more horrifying. Abby had been generous to these people, buying them a luxury apartment, and they repaid her with murder. Public outrage was intense. Thousands of people followed the case on social media. Abby's Instagram account, with its photos of her glamorous lifestyle and her children, became a memorial site where people left tributes. The case highlighted issues of greed, family dynamics, and the dark side of Hong Kong's intense property market where real estate is among the most expensive in the world. People questioned how a family could commit such a brutal crime. Many expressed anger that Abby's generosity was met with such evil. Her funeral drew hundreds of mourners, including celebrities and strangers moved by her story. Perhaps the most heartbreaking aspect of this tragedy is Abby's 4 children. She had 2 children with Alex Kwong, her murderous ex-husband, and 2 children with her current husband Chris Tam. These children lost their mother to an unspeakably brutal crime. The 2 older children lost their mother and their father. Alex was in prison for murdering her. They also lost their grandparents and uncle, all arrested for the crime. The psychological impact on these children is unimaginable. They must somehow process that their father, grandfather, grandmother, and uncle killed their mother over an apartment. Abby's current husband Chris Tam was left to care for all 4 children and help them navigate this nightmare. The children inherited Abby's estate, but no amount of money could compensate for the loss of their mother or the trauma of how she died. Child psychologists expressed concern about the long-term impact of such a traumatic event on young minds. The trial of the Kwong family attracted massive media attention in Hong Kong. Prosecutors presented overwhelming evidence: Abby's remains in the village house, butchery equipment, financial records showing the property dispute. The defense had little to work with. Alex Kwong's lawyer argued he wasn't present during the killing. Kwong Kao's defense tried to shift blame. But evidence showed all 4 were complicit. The trial revealed disturbing details about the planning and execution. Forensic experts described the dismemberment. The prosecution argued the only motive was greed. They killed her to keep the luxury apartment she provided. After hearing all the evidence, the court delivered its verdicts. Kwong Kao was found guilty of murder and received a life sentence. His role as mastermind made his betrayal particularly egregious. Jenny Lee was convicted for her participation and received a lengthy prison sentence. Alex Kwong was found guilty of murder, killing the mother of his children over property, and received life in prison. Anthony Kwong was convicted on related charges. The judge condemned the family for their greed and brutality. All 4 would spend decades in prison. The luxury apartment they killed for was sold, with proceeds going to Abby's children. Justice was served, but Abby would never come home. The Abby Choi case remains one of Hong Kong's most shocking murders, a cautionary tale about greed and betrayal. Abby's generosity, buying a multi-million-dollar apartment for her ex-husband's family, was repaid with horrific violence. The case exposed the dark side of Hong Kong's property obsession, where real estate is so expensive people will kill to keep it. Abby's 4 children grow up without their mother, carrying unimaginable trauma. The Kwong family sits in prison, their greed having cost them everything. The luxury apartment they killed for now symbolizes their crime. Abby's story reminds us that no property is worth a human life. Some prices are too high to pay. Subscribe for more true crime stories. Thanks for watching.